Thank you so much for listening to Urbanistica podcast. I am Mustafa, Sherif, an urban planner, and you're more than welcome to join my big journey of exploring the making of smarter and more livable cities. Please don't forget to follow Urbanistica on the different social media platforms, and also let's connect on LinkedIn. Big thanks to Urbanistica podcast partner AFRI. AFRI is an international engineering and design company providing sustainable solutions in the fields of energy, industry, and infrastructure. Are you ready for a new episode? Let's go for it. So, hello and welcome to Urbanistica podcast, Joao.
Thank you very much. I'm a big fan of the show, so I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you so much. We had contact, I think, from the last year, right?
Exactly.
And we were planning.
As usual, you are a very busy man.
But now it's time.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. But we were also waiting for you to go to the festival and then come back.
Yes.
So I think it's a perfect timing.
Yeah. Now it's time. New year starting as well, so
yeah.
Looking forward to look ahead.
Nice. So how was your trip to Stockholm?
Very well. No troubles, no delays, so one has to be thankful of that.
Right. So from which city?
I traveled from Kalmar in the south of Sweden.
Whoa.
So it's a long ride.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to say that I had to come by plane, otherwise it would be a mess.
Yeah.
From Kalmar to Arlanda and then train to here.
Welcome. So you are our storyteller. How would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes. I always say I'm an architect. That's really my DNA. I wanted to be an architect from an very early age. And I'm quite passionate about my job, my work, and I'm a city lover. All my travels are to cities. I love cities. It's where I want to live. So architecture and cities is my core.
Yeah, I think we share a lot of interest, but this one, traveling to cities, is very special. Some people traveling to islands just to calm down, to breathe.
Yes. That's even more normal here in Sweden. For me to go to the big cities is usually the destination.
Yeah. So take us back in time. Like you mentioned, you wanted to be an architect. Where did you grow up? Who's your family?
Mm-hmm. Yes. I was based in Portugal, in the north. You've been there quite recently, as I understood. It's a city of architects. I mean, it's astonishing how, for instance, we have two Pritzker winners in the same city, coming from the same faculty that I came from. So it was the place I lived all my life until the year 2000. I had the experience to come to Sweden as a Erasmus student. So that was my first experience in Sweden. Year 2000, 2001. And then I got back and started my practice in Portugal. And that took, let's say, 15, 16 years more before coming back again to Sweden.
Why did you come back?
That's probably the question that everybody has been asking me for the last 6 years. It's still hard to say exactly why, but I mean, I was in a different moment of my life with a family, young kids. Thinking how our profession was sustainable or not sustainable in Portugal. I got an invitation to come to Sweden to work in Sweden.
Wow.
And then I thought maybe I will give it a try.
Why not?
So that was the trigger point. An invitation to come and work. I thought, let's try for 6 months, and now it's more than 6 years.
But like it was headhunting.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It was headhunting a former teacher that I had in Lund University,
Okay.
that now is in Tengbom Architects, where I work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was directly headhunted by her.
How do you like it so far? We're gonna talk a lot about like working here as an architect, the process, and so on. But like so far, like an overall impression.
Yeah, the impression is fairly good.
Mm, mm.
Again, I mentioned sustainability of the profession, so I really believe in the Scandinavian countries one can have a more sustainable practice, uh, mainly regarding the work life balance. I mean, it's hard to imagine that it can be better.
Yeah,
Actually.
yeah. So tell us about your position now.
Mhm.
What do you do?
So I'm office director of Tengbom office in Linköping area in central of Sweden. I will throughout the episode kind of explain these small things because I know
Yeah.
you have a lot of listeners outside Sweden. So it's an office of roughly 20 people. We have architects, landscape architects, urban planners, interior designers, product designers, building engineer. So it's quite complete team of
Mm,
people.
mm. How many people were in the team when you started?
Uh, I mean, I started in the middle of COVID pandemic,
Okay.
so that was year 2020.
Yeah.
Yes, more
Mm,
or less. So we kind of have been steady in the amount of people we were. So we decreased slightly. Now we came back. So maybe we were 18. So there's always people
yeah.
on parental leave or so it's hard to count exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. So let's talk about the project that we emailed about, the
Mhm.
Barry's Look. So tell me about the background.
Yeah, it was international competition. The client is a company called Göta Kanal. Göta Kanal is the name of a canal, a channel that crosses Sweden. We can talk a bit more about that in a minute. But the owners of the canal decided to build a visitor center. It's a really interesting building infrastructure
Mm,
that goes way back, and they wanted to have a landmark in the center of the canal so they could explain to the visitors
mm,
what was the canal, how it started, what it means today. So they invited several architecture offices from all Scandinavia, and we were included in that selection.
mm. And more like about the geographical and the historical part of this canal.
Mhm. It's really interesting, and it's hard to understand without looking at a map.
Mm,
But let's put it like this: this canal was built in the beginning of the 19th century, and it crosses Sweden from east to west or
mm.
west to east, and it's basically a shortcut not to go around Sweden. So back in the day, boats, ships were the main
Mm,
transportation of goods, so not to go around, there was a shortcut connecting this two parts of the different seas. And it was also because in the area that is today Copenhagen and Malmö,
mm.
the Danes were charging a toll. So everyone had to pay a toll to pass with the ships
Ah,
there. So it was heavily expensive
yeah.
to cross. All the toll was only going to the Danish side, which is strange. I mean, the sea
Right?
belongs to two countries, but yeah, that lasted for centuries actually.
Wow.
So in the 19th century,
Mm,
this canal was envisioned to create this alternative for ships transportation.
yeah. And also like a big happening in the Swedish history, right?
Yeah, many say it's the birth of the modern Sweden.
Yeah.
It was the start of the industrial revolution.
Mm,
So it was quite fast forward, quite fast thinking, forward thinking. I mean, yeah,
yeah.
it's perceived today as a landmark in Swedish
Mm.
history.
And but this like all these elements put a lot of pressures on you as an architect when you are part of competition to create something unique,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, and part of the pressure was the fact that we were competing against really interesting architects.
Okay.
So Snohetta from Norway was invited, Dorte Mandrup from Denmark was invited, other Swedish architects were invited. So it was a high demand
Mm.
to really deliver something that the client wanted, and it was in the brief to have some kind of a wow effect.
Ah, like this unexpected.
Yeah, I mean to impress the visitor,
Yeah.
to in some way create the element of surprise.
Mm, mm. But you do in Tengbom, you do a lot of competitions, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
we the way we work is that we have a specialized team of people working competitions, and then that team always works together with the local office
Okay.
where the competition is located. So there's a mix of specific know-how of
Yeah.
competitions and local
And local.
know-how.
It's like elite force team, right?
Yeah, a bit like that.
But is it the same as back home in Portugal?
Um,
Do you work 24 hours when it's
uh,
competition?
uh, it might happen.
Yeah.
What is more normal in other countries rather than Sweden, I would say, it's more open calls, open competitions, not invited competitions.
Exactly.
Of course, there's invited competitions everywhere, but here the number of invited competitions is much higher than in other places.
Mm,
So in this case, we were invited, which means there's a higher chance of one winning,
exactly.
and usually the companies are also paid something to develop the proposal, which is nice. Otherwise,
I
I
think so,
mean,
yeah.
we always lose money in competitions,
Of
of
course.
course,
Yeah, yeah.
but there's some kind of investment from the start from the
Mm,
client,
mm,
which I think is fair
yeah.
for both sides.
So in this competition, were you a local or like this special elite competition team?
I mean, we were local from Sweden. I would say.
Okay.
Th- in the beginning, we were slightly afraid that the client was looking for a big name.
Yeah.
Snohetta, Dorte Mandrup. They still managed to include Swedish companies.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, in the end, they were not looking at names, but
Yeah.
at architecture.
Usually it's sad because like then it depends. It's their money. I'm not talking about this specific client, but I see sometimes some cities they are targeting like the big studios just to have their name. Like X studio did this,
Mm-hmm.
and X studio or X architect did this. It's like just to have this brand. What
Mm-hmm.
do you think?
Honestly, I'm not against.
Hmm.
I understand what you mean.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's unfair. Uh, I would say the biggest problem is not that strategy. Is that when there are other names that are not so known, they should have the same opportunities.
Hmm.
So the same standards of quality. So
Yeah.
it's very easy to raise quality with Herzog and Miron or Frank Gehry, maybe with other architects that their name are not so obvious, the
Hmm.
clients don't give the same level of investment.
Yeah.
So I would kindly slide to that side of me. Okay, it's fine, but let's give equal opportunities to
Hmm.
everyone in the business.
Yeah. I remember like there are some cities, let's say small cities, and they get famous just because Zaha Hadid did a building for them
Mhm.
or a museum for them.
Yeah, it's
It's like this.
The Bilbao effect.
Yeah, exactly. So what was your team?
Mhm.
Who is
Uh,
in the team?
yeah, and from my side personally, that's one of the most interesting part of the story. And in the beginning, I was talking about sustainability of the profession. So let's just look at this team,
Yeah.
for instance. Um, I should start with the ones that had a more active role,
Mhm.
and it's a guy named Antonio Minto. He was the lead architect in the project. Italian, in his 30s, 40s, I don't know exactly, living in Sweden for many years, and
Mm.
it was also a guy from our office, João Gaspar from Portugal, a bit younger. But then together with them, there was a senior architect, a landscape architect in her 60s, Swedish, and also with these three, a fourth guy that is Iranian, first job, started to work with us in 6 months ago. So I mean, you have from first job
Yeah,
to senior architects, 4 different nationalities. I mean,
a good mix.
it's a good mix,
Mm,
and for me, it's really I'm really proud of what they did by bringing the tradition that
yeah.
really is in the place in the
Mm,
in the Swedish architecture and twisting it, and it's still quite local but international at the same time.
yeah.
So this mix of tradition and the contemporary architecture. It's a big asset of our team of and our design.
Yeah. Because sometimes it's very hard to keep the local, what do you call it, soul or DNA of a place when you invite international architects, or when you have architects who are not like, let's say, from Sweden,
Mhm.
from different backgrounds, from different countries. So they didn't live in Sweden and understand the history and the different elements within Sweden. But I think you find a good balance there,
Yes.
with
I
especially maybe
mean,
with the senior architects.
there's no recipes. I mean,
True.
you
This is
were
the beauty
talking,
of
yeah,
architecture.
yeah. I mean, I know buildings, and if I go back to my home city again, really strong architects, Pritzker winners. But then we had one landmark there that was done by a Dutch architect, Rem Koolhaas,
Mm,
and it's completely outside the box, and it's a hit. I mean, the city loves it. It's a huge success.
yeah.
So again, I think that's important a lot for urban planners,
Mm,
politicians. It's hard to have one recipe. I mean,
yeah.
in the end, it's about the talent of people,
Mm,
the conditions that they have to work. So I wouldn't put as one single rule to achieve success.
yeah. Yeah. So tell us about the landmark that your
Mhm.
team created.
Yeah, it's as I was saying, it was a lot on inspiration from the site. It's a
Mm.
beautiful green area with small hills and a handmade canal that seems natural, but is in fact handmade. So our building takes the best of the site. So the height curves, the topography,
Mm.
the saddle roof, the wood, and combines this element into a new building. So we play a lot with shapes,
Yeah.
which in a way are the shapes of the terrain and
Mm.
the shapes of the canal. And with a saddle roof and wood, we create something new. It's hard to explain without images.
You can send me the images so I can put it and
Yes,
people can
absolutely.
see it.
Um, so it's a lot of attention to detail, to traditional architecture, vernacular architecture,
Mm.
wood as a starting point, and sustainability in a high level of demand.
Mm. When you say sustainability, like what kind of sustainability are we talking about? Material,
Mhm.
energy, social?
It's mainly at this stage, at least, it's mainly material.
Yeah.
The our client Göta Canal, they own a big part of forests,
Yeah.
so their plan is to use their wood to do their building.
Okay.
So it's local wood from the clients,
Mm.
completely 100% wooden construction. We are discussing the possibility of doing a null CO2
Mm.
building. Um, so at this stage it's really on more technical part of building with focus in wood
Yeah.
and with a very low, if possible zero
Mm.
impact of CO2 emissions.
When you did the competition, did you had like a dialogue with the client or no? It's
No
only
dialogue.
you
No.
just send the
I
final
mean, of course,
proposal.
we had a site visit together with
Yeah.
other architects, and
Mm.
the client was there giving their approach. We had a brief
Mm.
that was more or less clear.
Yeah.
The most open question was that the placement of the building was not set, so it was a quite vast
Okay.
area
Mm.
of one specific spot
Mm.
next to the locks,
Yeah.
where one could appreciate better
Mm.
the canal, the several locks. Uh, and I think one of the main assets of our project was to find the perfect place to place the
Mm.
building.
Yeah.
That I think it was one of the strong spots of our concept.
How was like take us behind the scenes? Like how do you work? What is the process? And identifying the question, and then what is your design process?
Mhm. This process was quite particular because it was in a short term, as always, always all competitions.
Mm.
But in our office, we strive to take architecture discussions to the a very high level, not to get satisfied by the first thing that comes from the sketch.
Mm.
So to discuss a lot the ideas, to test, test, and in a way this project was a result of that.
Yeah.
A lot of sketching, modeling, trials. Sometimes one has to make decisions, of course.
Who's making decision then?
The project team is making decisions. So in this case, it was mainly Antonio Minto and João Gaspar.
Yeah.
I mean, I was involved in some of discussions,
Mm.
trying not to intervene too much.
Mm.
Which I mean, when you have many architects, it might be difficult.
Yeah, I can imagine.
It's not like 1 + 1 is 2. No, I mean it can be complicated,
Yeah.
especially in competitions. So I mean, from my side, there was a lot of trust.
Yeah.
They were heading the right way.
Mm.
The project was getting better and better. There was an important decision in the end where we decided, okay, let's invest more money. So let's put more time in the project. Let's
Ah.
put more money in
Mm.
visualizations.
Okay.
It was a tricky moment to be
Okay.
sure. I mean, when do you need to stop?
I understand because
So
it's design.
yeah. So at a certain point, we were all in, but you never know what comes after.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah.
so your process was like is like talking about the brief, then
Mhm.
start sketching and put together sketches and see what like
Mhm.
people bring.
And that process can be sketching by hand, can be 3D modeling, and
Okay.
can be models, actual models.
Like physical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's no. I would say it's a common process to many
Yeah.
architects.
Yeah.
Um,
Do you prefer to sketch for hand, or you're
mhm,
doing like digitals?
mhm. Uh, in the last years, I personally started to use more and more VR.
Okay.
So to VR allows us today to give a sense of scale and
Mm.
reality that one doesn't feel from the monitor.
Yeah.
So, and just to be clear, when I'm talking about VR, I'm talking about putting the glasses and being inside the model
In
in
the
three
sight.
in 3D.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something completely new
Mm.
that I think it will be the future.
Yeah.
Of course, that doesn't take away the other tools that we have at our disposal. So I like to sketch a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
Uh,
like the model you're building in VR, from in which software you do it?
it can be any software. It can
Mm.
be Revit, Rhino,
Okay.
Archicad. Then you use Enscape or other programs
Plugin.
just to visualize.
Yeah.
And it can be a model without materials, only volumes. But
Exactly.
the sense of scale is really astonishing.
Mm.
I still remember the first projects where we started to use with VR, and I had a young architect working with me in this project for 6 months. And the first time he went into the model, he was okay. This is like this. I never
Now I
thought.
understand.
Now, I think I would live here. It was a very tiny
Yeah.
apartment that
Yeah.
we were discussing, like 35 square meters.
Yeah.
But inside the model in
Mhm.
VR, it really gives you something.
And is it easy to walk and so on?
It's very easy.
Mm.
So the technology, I mean, it really is easy.
Yeah. It's basic. Like you don't need so much.
No, I mean, you need a average good computer. If we are
Yeah.
talking about a laptop, you need a very good laptop. If
Mm.
you are talking about a normal station, it's an average computer.
Yeah. And if
Uh,
we're talking about an architect, like, do we need a lot of like tech skills to run this?
No, because basically the model that one uses is exactly the same model that you have in SketchUp or in Revit.
Yeah.
So it's not like you are doing something specific for
No.
VR.
Mm.
It's already what you have, but export it to VR.
Okay.
So if you model it right
Yeah.
from scratch, that's it.
Mm.
So there's not extra time in that process, which is a big asset. it still takes a lot to
Mm.
do models, the physical models,
Yeah.
I mean, or even to print models.
Mm.
With VR, the payback is very quick.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. How is it like when there's a kind of conflict? Let's say you are with three different other architects, and you start to feel that everyone is sticking to their own opinion. So, what do you do when you start to smell kind of there's a conflict in between us?
mhm. You mean in a, let's say, an internal team, for instance?
Internal team, yes,
Yes.
yes.
Uh, we in Tengbom have a role that is that we are trying to make it more and more clear is gestalting architect. Let's say someone responsible for the design.
Mm.
Can be a more senior person or a more junior person. I mean, it depends on the skills of that person.
Mm.
At least in all projects where we have a gestalting leader or a gestalting architect, I try to make it clear that he's the one making this decisions. Everyone has a play. Everyone should
Mm.
discuss, should come back with feedback, and so. But in the end, there has to be a decision that comes from one specific person.
Mm.
So at least in my teams, I try to make that clear,
Yeah,
so we can have steps forward, so we are not stuck
sticking. Yeah,
in that
exactly.
because it can be hard. And I think the worst is when there's a decision that comes from let's say commitment, just to be nice, okay, a bit of
Yeah,
everyone.
yeah. I think we
It
lose the architecture there.
Yeah, I mean, I understand someone. Sometimes we need to make agreements, but not necessarily always.
Yeah, I think also like it depends on the aim and like the result of this agreement as well. If you fulfill like let's say sustainability or the brief, but that giving 25% from each or taking 25% of each design and put it together, I don't really
It's not
believe.
necessarily no.
I remember this from school, from university, that many times we had a kind of conflict. Okay, whose design or whose master plan is going to be the one that we are going to work on? Sometimes we were making this like, okay, let's take this part from you, this part, and I think it's not truly the making of a building an
Yeah,
area.
that that's that's a difficult discussion, I would say. But at least in our teams, we try to improve that with some clarity
Mm,
within the roles.
yeah,
Not always is super easy, but I think it helps.
yeah, and like the let's say head of design or gestaltings architect. Should it be a senior, or how do you appoint this person?
Yes, something important in the role is the capacity to deal directly with the clients.
Hmm.
So sometimes that can lead to a profile that is slightly more senior.
Yeah.
Rather than that, there's really no boundaries regarding age or
Mm.
experience. It's more because I guess you know, and our listeners know, sometimes we have to sell to our clients an idea, and to feel comfortable doing that and to know how to approach a client,
Yeah.
it's part of the success.
Mm.
um, so that's the one of the requirements. Rather than that, we have just opening architects that are quite young, others that are quite
Mm.
senior. So in the end, it's a lot on the personal skills of the person.
Yeah. Have you been in a conflict? Not necessarily in
Um,
Tengbom, but like in your career, like a
No, I
tough
mean, it's
one.
very common. I
Yeah.
think we all that work in the branch. I mean, it's a constant struggle with
Mm.
the architects and the clients. I mean, I always go back to one of my first classes in university with Álvaro Siza, a quite renowned architect from Porto, and he said to create a good project, we always need three things: a good architect,
Mm.
money, and a good client, and there's always one missing. So even
That's true.
when you talk on that
Uh,
level, I mean, you listen probably podcasts of
yeah.
others,
Yeah.
and you can be listening to really famous architects, and it still is a struggle
True.
to to convince the client, wherever is the reason,
Mm.
because we all have different goals.
True.
And I mean, sometimes our goal costs a lot of money,
Yeah.
That's usually the main thing that our clients try to go against, but not necessarily.
Yeah.
Um,
It depends. Yeah.
it depends, but it's tough. One needs to maneuver
Exactly.
in a not very
Yeah.
uh, clear process sometimes.
So have you been in a such big conflict that you kind
I
of
mean, yeah, I've been in conflicts where, I mean, I had to kind of get away from the project for my own sake or for the client's sake, and uh, I mean, relations that don't work. So it's better to step away, to
yeah.
give the project to another person,
Mm.
to the client to find another architect. I mean, those situations happen now and then, unfortunately.
Yeah. And like in the Barry Locks
Mhm.
competition, are the three stars aligned? Like the money, the good architects,
So
and
far, so good. We are actually about to hear from the municipality
yeah.
and the Länsstyrelsen if the project is approved. We are not expecting any surprises. I mean, the municipality is on board, the client is on board.
Nice.
We are discussing the next stages of the project. So everything is going perfectly. I mean, I remember, if I go back some months, internally saying it's probably one of the first times that I've been working in Sweden where the
Everything.
stars are aligning. So let's hope it will
yeah.
continue.
Do you also feel like, oh, there is something wrong here? Like, you know, when everything goes so good,
Yeah, yeah.
you start to feel, wait a minute,
I,
there
I
is something
I'm a
wrong.
natural pessimist, so I wait for the worst. So
yeah.
everything that comes after
It's,
is better.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a bit surprising.
yeah.
I mean, I've been in this position before, but then something happens along the way. So let's
yeah.
see.
Let's see. No, I hope, let's knock on wood.
Yeah,
And I hope nothing.
let's be positive.
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you think, like, the key of success that you won this competition?
Mhm. Um, Again, going back, the placement of the building was key. Later, I could see the other proposals, and I
Mm.
think the placement of our building was the one that made more sense. It allowed more visibility to the visitors when they arrived. It allowed more visibility when you are in the building to the surrounding to see the boats passing by.
Mm.
That is a big asset. Also, the fact that we incorporated a lot of the vernacular architecture, but still showing it as a contemporary building,
Okay.
was a big asset.
Mm.
So it's really a mix of tradition and modernity. Um, so yeah, I would say these were the main factors, together with the sustainability that I think today is not an asset. I mean, everybody's working with that.
Yeah.
It's a must.
Mm.
So all combined, I think these were the ingredients for our success.
Yeah. This is like more design wise. And how about the people behind it?
Mhm. When you mean people behind
People, I
it,
mean like your team
uh,
and the process.
uh, I mean, the whole process was really good. So it was not as stressful in a way that was insecurity or not knowing exactly where to go.
How much
Uh,
time was it?
uh, 3 weeks probably.
Only?
4 weeks tops.
Is it?
It's more or
I'm
less normal. Yeah.
okay, okay. Because I'm not really used to
Mm.
the
No,
architecture.
uh, I mean, if you take more, that means you are losing a lot of money. So
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean, one
yeah.
has to
Mm.
to be effective. Otherwise, it's an endless work of several persons that no one knows if it will get some return. So usually competitions are quite effective in terms of time. So
Yeah.
3-4 weeks is the normal for this
Mm.
kind of competition. It's still a small building. It's not like a super big structure. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a visitor center. I don't know exactly the square meters, but let's say 3,000 square meters, something like that.
Yeah. When is this going to be built?
Um, we are about to restart the project, hopefully, now that we have the answer. So I think 2025, 2026,
Okay.
uh, there's a chance that the visitor center is ready for the
Yeah.
first guest.
Did you think a lot about like people's or visitors' experience, or more about the material and the look
Mhm.
and
I mean, one also always thinks on the user experience
mm,
of the building, and not only from the outside but also from the inside. So I think our proposal is also quite strong from that point of view. How you are inside and you still frame the views from the outside.
mm,
How with the wood you have this kind of boat experience inside the boat.
mm,
This kind of small ideas that enhance the experience.
yeah. Usually, architects get so much critic because they think a lot about the material and less about the people. I know
Mhm,
this is not the case in every design, in
mhm.
every studio, and so on. So how was it in this competition? Did you thought a lot about like here we have like a senior coming or like a child or and so on, or no, you when you think you just like assume there will be like a person and then you design.
Mhm.
How is it in your case?
Um, in this case, we knew the project was about a building, a visitor center, but something that answers a bit your question is that we took care of the full area, not only the building but everything surrounding the building.
The urban design,
So it's more landscape than urban
landscaping, yeah.
because I mean it's a green area,
Mm, mm.
but how one goes around the area around
Yeah.
the building, because there's really beautiful spots where you can
Mm,
see the lakes, where you can see the locks, the marina. So how one moves around the building, and that is like 3 kilometers path around. So to create all of these special spots around the
mm.
building was a plus from our proposal. I'm not sure if it was part of the winning,
Maybe.
but I mean we are already thinking on the next step of the
Yeah.
project. So it's really a part that we want to enhance the user experience outside the building.
Mm,
It's
mm.
part of a learning process
Yeah.
for everything.
Yeah. But again, congratulations for the
Thank you
winning.
very much.
And send me like pictures.
Mhm,
Send me also link, I think, if you have,
mhm,
so I can include it. And
mhm.
also, like this project got nominated to the World Architecture Festival.
Exactly.
So congratulations one more time.
Thank you very much. It was a honor to be there, and only out of curiosity, it was in Portugal, in Lisbon.
Oh,
So it was an opportunity
yeah,
to go back home to discuss architecture.
yeah. So, but who nominated the project? How is the process? Tell
So
us.
the process is, I mean, companies all around the world send their projects to this competition.
Yeah.
There's two categories. One is finished buildings. The other is future projects. So we sent ours to future projects categories within a subcategory that was only on competitions.
Okay.
So I think it was 5 projects selected from different locations. I mean, Iran, New Zealand, Czech Republic,
Wow.
Portugal. Portugal was the location. Sweden.
Yeah. That's
So we
big.
were in that list.
Yeah. That's very big.
I mean, it was
Yeah.
a milestone.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. It was. I mean, it was a moment for all of us in the office,
Mm.
in the company
That's a
to
huge.
feel
I
to
mean,
feel
that's huge.
proud.
Not only for, of course, like for Tengbom, but I mean for Sweden or Scandinavia. That one project from
Absolutely.
here is
There were
nominated.
3 projects from Sweden nominated,
Okay, cool, cool.
which is
Also
quite
big.
interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So how is the atmosphere in the festival? I never been there.
No, it was my first time as well.
Okay.
So it's an impressive selection of architects coming from all over the world.
Mm.
So I mean, it's. I mean, you could stay there the full day just listening to brilliant architects. It's amazing.
Yeah.
It's hard to express. The presentations are very short. It's 10 minutes,
Okay.
which is good. I mean,
That's very good.
it's easy for you to keep focused. But I saw beautiful presentations
Mm.
from architects in South Africa, or
Wow.
really innovative projects in the Netherlands.
Mm.
some architects that I knew as well that were there, that it was the first time that I had the opportunity to meet them live.
Yeah.
So it was a fantastic week for the full team that went.
It's a week.
Exactly
Like
3-4 days,
yeah.
probably.
Nice. So who is your hero, like within architecture? Your
Um,
idol.
yeah, I mean, I consume a lot of architecture. I follow things a lot. I mean, podcasts, websites, books and
Seminars
magazines.
and
So it's lectures. I'm a big
yeah.
fan of lectures.
Mm.
So it's a kind of a fluid person. I must say that from the beginning was, of course, the architects that came from my school.
Yeah.
A strong influence. Both Álvaro Siza and Soto de Moura, two big names in Portugal, and also, I mean, they won the Pritzker, so they big names internationally. Later, I started to be quite interested and influenced by Scandinavian architecture, mainly the modernists, and Arne Jacobsen, Sigurd Leverand, Salvador Alto. So I would say from my side, it's a mix of these names.
Yeah.
The traditional old
And the
Portuguese
modern.
architects and the modernist architects from Scandinavia.
Yeah. If you now, like, let's say if you will have the chance to invite an architect and to listen, who is this architect? One name.
One name, probably I would go for Herzog and de Meuron. I mean, they are the ones that I think managed to go from a small scale, a small office, to an international company, and still maintaining the level of quality to a level that it's hard to believe.
Yeah.
It really is. Every single project they do is a world class project.
Yeah.
It's really astonishing.
I love to take the chance and ask you, because usually famous architects, they get like they have very big studios, growing and growing and growing.
Not necessarily.
Not necessarily, like
Mhm.
some of
Some decide to do that because it allows to have more opportunities.
exactly
But there are others that don't go over the 20 persons scale
Yeah,
because it's the way they can guarantee they can control their work.
exactly. But I mean, now I'm taking Zaha Hadid,
Mhm,
and then we have a big also like Bjerkingen. So these are like, it's based on, the brand is based on firstly on the person,
mhm.
and when the person is not there, is it still like the same?
I mean, historically, statistically, those companies die. Fortunately, Tengbom is one of those names that, I mean, our for the ones that don't know, Ivar Tengbom was the founder of Tengbom 1906,
Mm,
but still today this company exists. Why? Because it went from one name
mm,
into something else,
yeah.
and it's relatively rare to for that to happen. So I
Mm.
wonder what will happen to Zaha Hadid Architects, for instance, as you were mentioning.
Now, yeah.
And she's not there. The current owner or lead architect. I mean, will he continue the same DNA of the company? It's hard
Exactly.
to know.
Mm.
Historically or statistically, those companies tend to disappear.
Yeah, because like I think cities or clients are buying the product of this specific, like when I commission Zaha Hadid, I'm expecting Zaha Hadid touch,
Hmm.
or Pierre King is all young Gale, or
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's interesting. How is
yeah.
it going to be after?
I think there will be examples where those names will develop into a brand,
Hmm.
but it's still difficult to have a clear path. I would guess that one of those brands that can continue in the future might be OMA. So it's not only one name; it's several names.
Yeah.
They kind of have been able to develop young architects in their organizations. So
Hmm.
maybe that can be the future to some of these big companies. But I mean, what will happen with Foster when Foster is not there?
This is it. Yeah.
These things. I mean, he's not already there. He's still there, but in a more
Yeah.
not very active.
Hmm.
We will see.
Yeah. Exactly. So let's come back from the international market to the Swedish market. So who's running architecture in Sweden?
Mhm. The Swedish market is quite specific if one compares with other countries. I mean, it comes together with the role of the architect in the branch. But what one can easily say is that I mean there's some big companies that control the market that have a big impact
Mm.
in the commissions that are developed in the country. There's of course small offices with high standards, but that often they are even more known outside Sweden than in Sweden.
Okay.
So in a way, the Swedish architecture market is controlled by big companies.
Mm. And like the role of an architect here, I guess it's not the same as in maybe in Portugal.
Mhm. No, no, it was one of the big surprises when I move. I mean, the image one has from Sweden when outside Sweden
Yeah,
is a bit different when one arrives here.
inside. Yeah,
So, I mean, outside Sweden, the examples that we see from the architecture are always the best examples.
of course.
I guess it's pretty much like that,
Mm.
probably from everywhere. But the in the end, the fact is that the architect in Sweden has a much smaller role than in other countries. And I usually don't compare that much, like let's say compared to Portugal. I mean, you can compare, for instance, with the next door neighbor Denmark,
Mhm.
which has a completely different,
More responsibility.
yeah, more responsibility, where the architect is the main element of the process.
How is it now? Like, what is the responsibility, or where goes the boundary for an architect?
The model that is being used mostly is that the architect is not the leader of the project.
Mm.
So what is called in Sweden the project leader, usually in other countries is the architect having that role. That role in Sweden would be called general consultant. So the one that coordinates all the consultants, all the specialities, and then holding the game. It's easy to set,
Yeah.
I mean, forward your design. So here the architect is in a, let's say, a equal position as all the other consultants.
Okay.
The decision making comes usually from the project leader,
Mm.
and I mean different project leaders have different goals depending on their organization.
Yeah. So, like, is it from let's say when is your role or your responsibility ends when you deliver the proposal or the technical drawings?
Um, the architect is more outside the building site in Sweden than in other countries. So I would say most commonly, I'm generalizing, of course, the work of the architect ends in the drawing board, in the end of details, in
Okay.
the detail phase of the project.
Mm.
Then it's handed in to the builders. It might happen that the builders change architects, but that's a different
Ah,
question. But let's say in a more normal process, we finish the project in all stages. Then it goes into production, into construction, and the role of the architect in the construction or production, it's not very active.
yeah.
Of course, there's exceptions, but
Yeah.
this is a norm that
Mm.
happens a lot.
So here, like compared to some other countries, the architect or an architect has less responsibility in the entire project.
One might say so.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it means like less headache. I mean, it's is it good or
it,
no?
it it depends on how you see it. I mean, if you let's say if you want a 9 to 5 job with no headaches, of course it's much better. But if you want to raise the quality of the project, if you
Mm,
really want to be the responsible of the project, you lose a lot by having this process. So I think it's hard to deliver quality without being 100%
mm.
involved in all stages of a project.
It's because like you cannot really follow up the design when they construct it and so on.
Yeah, I mean it's very it might happen that changes are made. I
Mm,
mean let's think think on the worst case scenario. You do a project, you send to building permits, the municipality approves.
Yeah.
The next stage to many organizations in Sweden is that they change architects, because then the responsibility lies on the builder. So the builder comes with a new architect,
Okay.
and this happens in small, big, medium
Mm.
projects, prestige projects or not. So it's I mean, again, this is probably the worst case scenario, but the qualities might disappear.
But is it annoying for you as an architect that you end like your role and responsibility ends,
I mean, now that
let's
I'm
say, in
home
the middle?
7 years in Sweden, I'm kind of getting used to it.
Yeah.
So our role is to convince the clients the importance of us being involved from A to Z.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's annoying. As
Mm.
every project, we put a lot of time, dedication, and
Mm.
if it goes somewhere else, then I mean, it's a part of you that goes away.
Yeah. But what do you prefer, the way here of doing architecture, or back home? Let's say that when we now I'm focusing on responsibility and how
Mhm.
much impact you can make in
If
the
I would
project.
if I would focus only on the responsibility, I would of course say the model that is happens in some countries, where
Mm.
the architect is both architect and project leader,
Mm.
holding the main decisions of the project together, coordinating all the consultants and dealing directly with the client.
Yeah.
That is the way to achieve more success, and some architects in Sweden manage to do that.
Okay. So do you see, like, here in Sweden, are we heading toward this model or no, staying as how we are doing it
Uh,
now?
I mean, this model has been there for quite a long time.
Mm.
I mean, one of the historical reasons that often people say to me comes from the 60s, 70s, and the Million program,
Mm.
where this massification of new buildings has to be taken place, and then the responsibilities were given to the builders. Uh,
Just to scale up, to
yeah,
get
yeah,
things
yeah.
done
Because I
quickly.
mean, there were no architects
No.
back then, and the scale of that
Mm.
investment. So again, we are talking about 1 million
Yeah.
new houses. So our international audience can understand. Sweden decided to build this 1 million houses in 10, 20 years,
Crazy.
60s and 70s. So it was a huge step.
Mm.
So the way to do it was to build it, and to the builders to have more responsibility, and
Mm.
it made sense. But a way the payback is that, yeah, the architect is a bit far away from the main
Yeah.
decisions.
Yeah. But how do we, like, elevate the level of quality here?
Mhm. That's a question that I have been working a lot in our organization.
Mm.
And I go a lot to that saying that I was saying from Alvaro Siza, that it's this triangle of talent, architects, good clients,
Money.
and money. So one has to work with these three sides of the equation.
Mm.
I mean, to find the right clients is key, wherever is the profession, I guess. Some capability to invest is also mandatory, and I mean, then we have also to find the right talent in the architecture world to come and work with us.
Mm. And when you say talented architects, what makes them talented?
Mm.
Like, what skills are you looking for?
I mean, when we mount a team is different, different skills, different person, and it's like in any sport. I mean, if you take football, you need a goalkeeper and you need a striker. So,
Yeah.
and they are completely different. So it's the same. You need, of course, the creative side, but you also need someone that is a bit more structured,
Yeah.
that organizes. So the combination of
Mm.
this different people is very important. Of course, to find that person that has a extra level of creativity,
Mm.
that come back with solutions easier than others. It's what usually is perceived as being a talented architect.
Mm.
The, the person that can really come back with
With a
solutions
solution.
faster, easier than others.
And also maybe a clear solution.
Mhm.
maybe
Yeah, to
to
find
present or
yeah, I
to
mean, the we will be faced by questions from different sides.
yeah,
So to combine a solution that answers hopefully all the questions, not always is possible,
yeah.
but that's the key.
Apart from like this skill, like finding a solution, what is the like the absolutely most important skill that an architect should have?
Um, hard to say. I'm trying to think on all the talented architects that I know, and I mean, they vary a lot from person to
Yeah.
person. There are some that are super social and they can work with others and bring that creativity from the group
Mm.
and transform it into something. While there are others that are cavemans that on their own
Yeah.
they also produce brilliant
Mm.
stuff. So it's hard to have a clear answer. I mean,
Mm.
there's different recipes to achieve success.
Yeah.
Say.
Yeah. And when you mention a good client, what are the like the not maybe not skills? What do you call them? Uh,
Characteristics, maybe.
yeah. What, like that describe a good client.
Yeah, some of our listeners might be thinking it's the client that lets us do whatever we want and has money, and it's nothing to do with that. I mean, usually the good client is one that is quite involved in the project, so he really follows closely the
Mm.
decisions. He understands our side and his vision, so it's easy to compromise the will of both sides. It's a person or organization that trusts the architect and vice versa. Um, so it's like almost all social relations. I mean, trust,
Yeah.
um, know where to invest, how to invest.
Mm. Mm. Is it hard to get a good client?
Uh, yes, I mean it's my biggest challenge at the moment.
But what's their problem? Like,
I mean, then we start to talk a bit on the type of client one has today. And for instance, today in my office, we work a lot with the municipalities. And the municipalities at the moment, most of them have a problem is that they have a development sector
mm,
that wants to develop a project with usually with some ambition,
yeah.
but then they move on to the next department, and the next department is the one that executes the project.
Mm.
And their goal is completely different: is that it's effective, that doesn't give headache, that is easy to maintain, and usually this collides.
Okay.
And it happens a lot that we have really interesting projects that when they move to the next stage
Mm.
starts to cut
Cut.
cut cut
Mm.
cut. And I mean, it happens, or it happened to me sometimes, clients that say sometimes our projects need to be a concrete box and that's it.
What?
So again, what's a good client? I mean,
Mm.
someone that has a bit higher ambition,
Mm.
that understands that we are building something not only for us but for the
Yeah. Yeah.
community, that has to give back.
Mm.
So that's the main challenge, that we move from this goal from our own organization and try to think a bit more on the collective,
Yeah. And
on
also
the
about like the aim of this project. Uh, does this has so much to do with the money? Like, I mean,
uh,
they look at a project not from the design, not on the design and what this will benefit for people and the environment, but they see a project as a, like Swedish crowns. It's only about economy and that's
mhm.
it.
To be fair, the system that we have in Sweden has proved to be interesting, delivering, let's say, average quality.
Mm.
So it's like you have this amount of money. Instead of putting your investment in two, three, four landmarks, let's try to spread it out,
Mm.
and that our lowest level rises a bit and goes to an average level.
Mm.
So Swedish architecture, Swedish cities, they have a good level of urban space, of architecture. Uh, I mean, it's rare to really see a very bad level.
Mm.
Um, but also it's rare to see a level of excellency. So this system, because we're talking about money,
Yeah.
proved to be interesting, trying to deliver goods to a wider group of people.
Mm.
So I mean, one has to understand that, but still at the same time, that's not put aside that one also needs more than the basics. I
Yeah.
mean, also needs inspiration. It
Mm.
needs something that elevates ourselves and
Yeah.
our cities.
Do you start to see recently, like the architecture here in Sweden, a kind of uh, similar to each other? It's like boxes of concrete boxes, just
Yeah.
because of this process.
Uh, I think one can say that. Again, the power of decision lies a lot in organizations that have as a goal their own goals and not necessarily the city or the community goals. So, I mean, concrete boxes are
Mm.
spreading everywhere.
Yeah.
As a that's a reality. It
Mm.
is what it is.
But then there is not so much creativity in this, or
I mean, you can still do things. Again,
I
we're
mean,
talking about.
now you're so much limited by the economy, by the
Mhm.
process,
The,
less
yes,
responsibility.
there's of course still good practices, good architects that manage to take these ingredients and still deliver
Yeah,
good architecture. It's tougher, but in those, I mean, those guys usually there's something extra. There's a client, okay, still within these
limitation.
boundaries, uh, they are still allowed to make their own decisions.
Mm,
um, yeah, I'm talking about concrete boxes. I mean, I'm a fan of concrete. I don't have anything against concrete or against boxes,
mm.
but it's more the mindset that yeah, we just need four walls and a ceiling for put
Yeah,
our kids in the school, and that's
and
it.
that's it. Let's run it like this. It's less headache as well, saving some money as well.
Yeah.
And talking about money, because in some countries there's like a kind of unlimited budgets, just like give me a city or give me a building. Is this good for an architect or no? Like as an architect, you train to have like limitations, so then you can be creative.
The limitations are very important. I
Mm.
mean, it's very hard not to have some boundaries. So the limitations help you make decisions. So I don't see that as a being like a problem. They should be there and they guide us to make our own decisions and together with the clients to make the right decisions.
Mm.
So I mean, of course, there's like some projects where it seems that it's endless the investment, but to some extent,
There is,
there's some boundaries. The
yeah.
question is that they started on a very high level.
Did you have you been working some kind of this project like it's the budget is super big?
I mean, I have been working with projects with good budgets that, of course, allow us to do to achieve a result in the end that we are proud of.
Yeah.
So, of course, it makes everything easier
Mm.
when you have again this equation of a good budget, a good client, a good architect.
Mm.
Then I mean the results come faster.
Yeah. And now we're moving like to talk more about you. But before that, I have one question left in the architecture or the Swedish architecture. Um, Recently, like I graduated, I think for 5 years ago, and what I see is like senior architects or young architects, they quit their job from like famous studios and they start their own, like one or two, they start their own studio and so on. I see this a lot. Is this common in other countries or no? It's like more like here in Sweden. That's
I think it's even more common in other countries, actually.
okay. Yeah,
So I would say it's less common
in
in
Sweden.
Sweden.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, and that gets back to the question of the sustainability of the profession. That here is bigger than in other countries. So in other countries, you can work for these famous architects. I mean, you are there 5, 10 years at the most, and that's it. There's no development, both economically wise or
Mm,
even what you have
mm.
to learn. You did it, so it's a natural step to go on your own and I mean try to do to understand what's the next in your career.
Yeah, yeah.
While here you have both opportunities. I mean, you have the possibility of heading that way, creating your own business, and
Mm.
good luck with that. Or you have also other kind of organizations that give you freedom to grow within your organization.
Yeah, yeah. Interesting. So, Joao, I'm very interested in your career, like moving from Portugal to Sweden. How was it when you arrived here? Was it easy to you have been headhunted, so
Mhm.
good for you. But I mean, is it easy to for a non-Swedish architect to get into the market here?
I mean, it's tough. Okay, let's. There's two ways.
Mm.
One is, of course, headhunted, as I was, and of course, that's the easiest. There's still some hurdles to go across, but it's the easiest. The other one is the what's more, let's say, more traditional, which is our architects that come to Sweden, wherever is the reason, and then
Yeah.
they need to find a job,
Mm.
and that one is tougher, of course.
Because of what are like the challenges?
I mean, it there's a lot of questions. Usually, the first one is the language,
Mm.
which is a bit hard to understand, but it is what it is. I mean, one has the idea that in Sweden everybody speaks English, and it is true. Uh, but on a work environment, unless your organization is quite international and
Mm.
works for many countries, which is not the norm in architecture, then the language is a problem internally,
Mm.
and it can be a problem to get in and to develop within those organizations.
Mm.
So absolutely, that's the first difficulty.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
I remember like about the language when I started to study master here in KTH, the university. We were doing the master and nobody mentioned about the language to the international students.
yeah, you are in that bubble of university,
Exactly. They paid so much money and they are here and suddenly after like 2 years when we finished, it was time to look for a job.
and then it's a shock.
Exactly. They didn't speak any Swedish word and they didn't attend the Swedish classes and so on because nobody mentioned to them. They thought like everything is going to be in English and life is good. And unfortunately, like from my, how to say, I don't know, from my class, I wanted to say generation, from my class.
I think one could say your generation in the
Yeah.
school, because it's still a difficulty today.
Yeah. So I think 80% they went back to their home countries. It's
Yeah, it's
because
tough.
they
Yeah.
had 6 months of looking for a job and then they couldn't speak Swedish and it was so sad atmosphere. Like they left back home and they had a big dream to stay here in Sweden.
Yeah, I mean, I know endless applicants to
Mm.
my office and my company that are really talented,
Yeah.
but for them to be introduced in most of the companies or organizations, it needs to be a welcoming group that allows
Yeah.
them
Yeah.
to speak English, that integrates them and helps them in this development into Swedish. That it might be difficult,
Yeah.
uh, but again, this is seeing the difficulty. I tend to look a lot on what these persons can bring to the teams as well,
Mm, of course.
and I'm a true believer that, I mean, if you focus on the talent, on the skills, I mean, the
The
language
rest
skills
will
is
come.
a
Yeah.
small part.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, like I do a lecture for introduction when they start the programs. So the first thing I mention is that you need to sign in a Swedish
Language
course. You
course.
have to. You have to.
If one wants to
Yeah.
have higher chances,
Yeah.
I
You
think
have.
it's a very
Yeah. Yeah.
important advice,
Yeah.
actually.
Because the system is like here in Swedish later. All the municipalities and everything's going to be in Swedish. So this is take it from me already. Tomorrow, go sign in a class. And I think
I
the language.
completely agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's if they achieve that, they have higher chances of
I
getting a job.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. And recently, we hired a landscape architect from Ukraine, and also we were thinking about this. Okay, we need to put a lot of resources in order to make her feel home here at Hayfree. At the same time, she will learn the language. So, how much time are we going to invest on her?
from the other side, as you mentioned, it's about like the talent and what she brings, the value she brings. And it's much more higher than like how much time we're going to invest.
Yeah, but in the end, you need a organization or a group of people that understands that. And
Yeah. Yeah.
unfortunately, there's still many cases where
Mm,
the organizations or the companies still look on the
yeah.
okay, this will cost time, this will cost money,
True. True.
and I think we are losing a lot of talent by doing that.
Mm, mm. Yeah. It's like this diversity element. It's gonna make us like almost every offices have like architects from KTH, from Stockholm, or from Lund. You know, like if we stop thinking about to diverse, how to
Mhm.
bring other perspective in order to make the team stronger.
Mhm. And that gets back to our team in the Bergs locks. I mean, it's almost like a joke. A Portuguese, an Italian, a Swedish, and the Iranian goes to a bar, and they deliver. I mean, they deliver
Yeah.
qualities. So it's. I mean, I was fortunate to step into a new culture
Mm,
and the office in Tengbom that was quite international.
mm,
That the language was not a hurdle. Of course, I understood throughout these years I've been here that, of course, is mandatory.
yeah. Yeah.
One to learn the language.
Yeah.
So that's not the question. Uh, but I mean, we talk about in our profession about inclusivity
Mm, mm,
and all of these things. So I think it lacks a bit of this in our practice in Sweden to
mm.
be a bit more inclusive, a
Yeah.
bit more pedagogical.
Yeah.
It lacks that part actually in our branch.
I think it's because of this stress of budget and time. You know, you don't put so many hours on something else rather than on a project to cash in money to the studio. From my
Yeah,
own
yeah,
personal,
I agree.
I
I
see like, okay, now I'm telling everyone. It's not everyone, but many of our colleagues. When I talk to them and I ask, what is your challenge? What makes you stressed so much? And they say is in Swedish like debiteringsgrad.
mhm.
I don't know what is in English, like how much
The
money you take in,
yeah
or how many hours you work to take in money, right?
Yeah, yeah. It's basically again a bit pedagogical too, because I was not used to this as well. We have a budget of hours that we work in the projects, and
Mm,
one should keep that budget.
mm, mm.
And sometimes, I mean, it's tough to keep those.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to deliver within that set of
yeah.
hours. And I mean, it's a challenge
Mm,
many times. It's a bigger challenge eventually if you have people with who it's more difficult to communicate. But again, if this person also brings other things, creativity,
yeah.
organization,
Creating community and culture.
modeling work
Mm,
that is more advanced. I mean, it depends on the person.
yeah,
Then you can gain some time. But the starting point that often many think is okay.
yeah.
I will need to spend the double of time just to
Mm,
help this person.
yeah. And I understand as like studios, we are more like a consultant and we live by the working hours. That's how we get paid.
Mhm.
But what I see, like this shouldn't affect our health and our way of developing the profession. And just like when we receive an email in English, we just say no because we see that, oh, we need to put so many hours on this and so on. It's a bit sad, but I think it's good for the industry, or for us as architects or planners, to have more mixed, like more like disciplines to upgrade what we have here. Plus, of course, our universities and our culture here, we have it in Sweden. But we need always like some insights, like this little
No,
touch.
no, yeah, yeah, it's the multidiscipline, not only in the project but also on backgrounds.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
that I see as a asset to every
yeah.
project.
So the language was a challenge. Then the
I mean, the first challenge was the language.
mm,
Again, in the organization, the office of Tengbom that I started in Kalmar, that was not a question.
mm,
Uh, I mean, the next challenge that I felt was again what we were talking a few minutes ago about the role of the architect. So it was very difficult to steer the project from
mm,
a design principle. I mean, what was steering the project in this specific
yeah,
project, for instance, that I started working was in fact the builder. So trying to
Mm.
find solutions that were more cost effective and still that somehow tried to look good. And I mean, there's a point where that's not possible anymore.
Yeah.
So not working for the final client.
Mm.
I mean, the final thinking on the final users. No, we were working for in a project where the builder had a lot of decisions in their yeah. They were basically calling the shots.
Yeah. Yeah. What else you faced as a challenge?
So it was mainly that, and I mean I was back then. This was 7 years ago. I was
Mm.
coming out from my own practice, a small organization.
How many? Like,
I mean, we were 4 persons,
okay.
so a lot of proximity
Yeah.
between the team into a company of 600 persons. So of course that's a completely
Yeah.
different reality,
Mm.
and it took time for me to get adjusted to that.
Mm. Because you cannot decide on about everything.
Yeah. It's in a small company or a small studio, it's very easy to make decisions, and
Mm.
then the decision is made, and you see it happening fast. While of course in a bigger organization, it's like steering a huge boat.
Yeah.
Things take time, and I mean, you start to be a bit impatient.
Now you open a very interesting door because this question I get a lot. Should I start work in a small studio or a huge big firm?
Mhm.
Of course, there's plus and minus in both. But what do you say?
Uh, I mean, it's a very difficult decision, but I would say that one can learn a lot, especially in the beginning, if you work in a small studio
Mm.
with really talented architects. I mean, if you have the chance to work with some of the best, both internationally or Sweden, of course, your learning curve in the first years is very high,
Mm.
and probably you will have an experience that maybe later you won't have.
Mm.
So that I would advise. The things that lasts 5 years, maybe a bit more, then you will be stuck in a moment that you start to think what's next. Because
Exactly.
I
You
mean, what
cannot
you
go up more.
yeah, what you learn, it's done.
Yeah.
And then of course there's other possibilities. Of course, many might think work on their own, or
Mm.
also
Mm.
bigger companies that offer you the progression and other type of experiences.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a very hard decision,
Yeah.
I would say.
Mm-mm. So what did you do in order to be part of uh, Tengbom, of the culture, of the city? So now, like in previous section, we talked about the challenges and so on. But of course, it's not only about the system. It's also a lot to do with you as a
Mhm,
person, like learning, understanding, reading. So what did you do in order to be part of this?
mhm. I mean, my background, I was, as I said, I was working on my own. I was also teaching on the university, so I was used to really take initiative
Mm.
and always being quite driven. So that side of me started to have an impact also in Tengbom.
Mm.
And I started together with my superiors, started to discuss, okay, how can we change this? How can we raise the architecture quality? What do we need to do? And from these initial conversations, it led up to a moment where I was working already with 7 offices within the company,
Wow.
trying to establish methods and strategies to
Mm.
elevate architecture quality. So that was the trigger point.
Yeah.
Try to blend in the know-how that I could bring from other countries,
Mm-mm.
and again to try to achieve this goal of, okay, what can we improve?
Yeah.
Let's do this. Let's improve. What can we do?
So it's like a lot to do that with you being creative and bringing the new perspective
Hmm.
instead of just like being there and doing your job from 8 to 5 and going home.
Yes, and of course there were others with this mindset,
For sure. For
trying
sure.
to trying to do better, a bit stuck in this 9 to 5 job with lower expectations. So it was a bit, uh, fresh air coming in to try to elevate our work.
Yeah. And what is your like advice to people from outside Sweden that wants to work here? Because it's very attractive to work here.
Yeah,
And I know so many, like if only from LinkedIn, I get so many messages about, I love to apply, I want to do this. So what is your, like, let's say, takeaway to them?
I mean, I must say I help a lot of candidates that contact me, and I'm not shy. I answer everyone. I try to help as much as possible. I follow up all applications to Tengbom.
Yes.
So I have a quite clear scan of what are the mistakes or what are the benefits. Important to say as well that, I mean, the way I hire is not necessarily the way others hire.
Of course, I'm talking with you.
But I mean, for me, the absolutely most important element is the portfolio. I mean, if one has really a good developed portfolio, visual, interesting, the most common mistake is excess of information. So I mean, effective on a right dimension, let's say probably not more than 20 pages. That is mandatory. So I still see today people applying without a portfolio. I mean, I don't understand how one will hire this person. Then, if you have the portfolio, I mean, it's there that you have to show your qualities. So, what are you selling from yourself? Usually, I would say it should be that you master different tools. So, I mean, visualizations are important. The way you present the visual communication of the portfolio is very important. And then, of course, in the end, the quality of the project itself. So if one has this, I think it has much higher chances of succeeding.
Yeah, like the portfolio is like almost the winning card.
Yeah, I believe so. I had an experience recently that I think it's interesting to share. An applicant to my office in Linköping, he had a portfolio that was very strange, and in the middle had a fantastic project.
Okay.
I mean, I had some time. It was quite afternoon, so I Googled his name and that project.
Yeah.
And it looked like he was the author of that project. So the let's say the bad part of the portfolio was projects he was doing for someone else.
Okay.
And the excellent project was his own project. So I mean, I had to contact him and I wrote him, listen, unfortunately I don't have an open position, but if you want, we can meet, and I'm gladly to help you to give the feedback.
Yeah.
And I was a bit insecure how honest I could be with him, but then he presented the full portfolio, and I told him, listen, you are doing this completely wrong. You have this project that is amazing, high class, and you are showing things that you shouldn't show. I mean, it doesn't matter. You did this, it was a part of your career. Good. But you are on a different level. And guess what? After that, this specific project was published on Arc Daily, Design Boom.
Wow.
I mean, I told him, you should send this to some awards, because this is really good.
Yeah.
And it's something falling from nothing, not really put in the right way.
Yeah. No, I think the storytelling is it's very important. I think especially for us planner or architects, like working with telling a story by mostly images.
Yes.
I mean, text is fine. Yes, this is what we do also. But I think we trained, or the profession has so much to do that we can tell a story by images.
Visual. Yeah. Of course, on the second level, portfolio is interesting. I always go and check the CV, the application letter. That's important. But on the second level,
yeah.
So what catches again my attention really is the portfolio.
Yeah. I think I do the same personally. Because you get let's now talk about, because I get to LinkedIn and then I say, can you please email me to this so I have everything in front of me. The first thing I click is on the portfolio PDF, the attached PDF, without start reading. So I just get the
I
images.
did the same.
Yeah,
So one doesn't get influenced by the
exactly.
CV, the background.
Yeah.
Independent.
Exactly. So you see the vibes and the images, and then you see how much structure is this person as well, because it tells a lot from the portfolio, like how you place the text, how much text, what kind of text, and all of this, the layout. It tells a lot of the person. And then I go to the CV and the motivation letter. So like all three are important, but I think a portfolio, because this is what you sell.
Yeah.
And I love when people put like extra, like they do, I don't know, photography, or they drawing.
It's interesting. It's a icebreaker in the end that shows the other side of the person.
Yeah, and then you see, okay, cool. Because sometimes maybe you're looking for an architect with these skills. I remember like one who can do really good photography, because we needed one for a project. And there was a portfolio, like half of it is the projects, and then the rest is like, I did this photography competition. I'm like, okay, this is it. So I think it's important to show you as a person also, not only the profession. Then you can tell a story of you, like who is this person I'm talking to, doing podcast or playing football.
The personal side is important. The soft skills, the social part.
Yeah. So portfolio,
absolutely
more
number one.
Yeah, more advice.
I mean, I would try not to make it too complex. Put your focus in the portfolio. I mean, the CV is easy. I mean,
yeah,
there's nothing to it. The application letter that many ask should be personal. So it should show that you know the office, that you know the works, that there's something that motivates you.
Okay.
So that's a small tip, extra tip I would say.
Yeah, is that like do the homework, read about the office, the studio, and then write a personal letter, like literally a personal letter, not like the copy paste one.
Absolutely.
And what else?
I think that's it. That's the let's not make it too complex. Focus on the DNA, which is these things that we are talking about.
Yeah.
Did you have something in mind?
Yeah, I have something in mind, and it's maybe it's a question. Like when you get the no, what does this mean, and how should you continue? Should you give up on your dream, or keep?
I learned from some candidates that to follow up the application. I mean, you get a no, but if you ask, okay, is it okay if in 4 months I come back to you? And I always say yes, please do. And I mean,
Who knows?
you never know.
Yeah.
Of course, there's a risk that sometimes people are being nice. But I mean, what do you have to lose?
Exactly.
So I have many applicants that come back and ask. Some that I'm probably a bit more involved because I helped them in some way. And again, there's really talented people there. I wish I could hire 5 more. And unfortunately, most of them are foreigners, which is a bit sad. Some of them in really tough situations.
Yeah.
But to be persistent is important. Not, of course, to be a stalker.
What do you mean?
I mean, yeah, you know that when you do that, when you go back, you never know exactly if you are insisting too much. So to what point should you insist or not? It's probably something that we discuss a lot when we are trying to do sales activities. I mean, we as architects also in our positions, we are selling also our service.
Course.
When do we know we need there's a point that we need to know where to stop.
Yeah, like the feeling.
And I mean, one question that one can do is, okay, I start to feel that I have been insisting too much, so I think it's what you say. I mean, it's not going to happen. Better to try to find some other solutions.
Yeah, I understand you, because then like asking a lot, or it's gonna have a backfire.
Yeah, it needs to be in the right dose.
Yeah. I think you should, how to say, it's very difficult. I have been in this situation, like to sense the other person by the email, like,
Mhm.
and see where is the boundaries, like when should I contact this
Mhm.
person, or where should I like come
Yeah,
down?
but the usually the main difficulty is that you send, you apply, and you have no feedback,
Yeah, it's
nothing
dead.
back.
Oh,
I mean, that's the toughest.
yeah.
I mean, the only advice that I would do that is that if you scan the organization, if it's
Mm,
a small office, okay, who are the partners?
yeah,
Can I find a direct email? If it's a bigger company, there's different regions. So one thing is
exactly.
to apply, let's say, to your company or my
Mm,
company to
mm,
north of Sweden. Another thing is the south of Sweden. Who is
yeah,
the regional bosses?
yeah.
Try directly to the studios, try
Mm,
directly to the region bosses, try to the whole company.
true.
There's different ways
To
in
enter.
to enter.
Yeah.
So that's something that I have seen some candidates doing
Mm.
has been
Like
proved
targeting.
successful.
Yeah.
Okay, they don't enter this door, but then they are contacting another
Y-
door. Sometimes it works.
Yeah, exactly. And I think doing the homework is very important.
Yeah.
I have been in a situation where I was just copy pasting stuff and I didn't get anything and I was angry and sad.
Yeah, the
It-
copy pasting is difficult to go around because
mm,
if you apply to 20 companies, it's very time demanding to
yeah,
to personalize each application.
yeah,
So that I understand. Uh, but the portfolio is not exactly that.
exactly. Mm. What do you think about LinkedIn? Does it help?
Uh, so we were talking that architects are quite image oriented.
Visual?
Yeah, so LinkedIn is not super strong on that side.
Mm,
It's still a strong work platform.
yeah,
So I wouldn't exclude, uh, but I mean, I never hired anyone through
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn,
Mm.
but I know that all human resources work
HR?
or HR works a lot with LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So the companies that have human resources
Mm,
or the hiring companies that are
yeah.
specialized in not only architecture but
Mm,
others, it's a strong channel for them to find people.
yeah.
So I would say it's mandatory to be on LinkedIn, to try
Mm.
to be somehow active.
Also, yeah, yeah,
I mean, sometimes candidates are coming out from the university, they don't know what to say.
yeah.
I mean, why not share interesting stuff?
Mm.
Urbanistica pod, for instance.
I tell the thank you. I tell this to all the students. I tell them document your journey. Post something from like this course. Everything has a value. Don't underestimate yourself to say what can I bring for values to all these professionals. But like maybe something in the lecture you find is super interesting. You can make a picture and put it on. And like it's all about documenting your journey, what project you work with, summer school. I don't know, because all
What
of this,
moves you?
yeah, exactly. Like, because I guess for you now, how many experience you have now, Joe? In
How many years you mean?
yeah, yeah,
I would say 20 now.
20 now. So let's say if I'm a student and posting slides from the PDF from an architect talking about ecology and architecture. Is this interesting for you?
It might be interesting.
Mm.
Again, it might be a icebreaker.
Yeah.
I know some cases that have been successful through
Mm.
LinkedIn,
Yeah.
and again, probably the ones applying that have more difficulties today because of the economic
Yeah.
situation and
Yeah.
other things is the young architects
Mm.
coming out from the universities.
Mm.
Uh, some of them have been using in a good way LinkedIn
Yeah.
to show themselves somehow,
Exactly.
and that means showing the portfolio
Mm.
through LinkedIn. I mean, there's smart ways to doing it.
So many.
It's not only putting that.
No.
I mean, small videos. Again, try to be creative
Creative. Yeah.
somehow.
Yeah.
There's many applicants that also share their Instagram account, which I
Mm.
find nice.
Yeah.
So to see this other side of the person
I think it's
might be
very
interesting.
important.
So if you see a candidate that, okay, they have their personal life, but they also look architecture, are
Exactly.
interested in the profession,
Mm.
follow
Mm.
stuff, and it shows a part of the person that, again, this the soft skills, that it's
Exactly.
driven, interested,
Yeah.
and not looking for a 9 to 5 job.
Exactly. Yeah. Like more caring about the mission of architecture. And before we move on to the next chapter, when should we, or let's say me applying for a job in Sweden, when should I give up?
When the money runs out. I mean, it's tough. Um, it's tough. I mean, all of us, for sure, we have been
Yeah.
somewhere along our lives in tough situations,
Yeah.
and it's we all have dreams.
Mm.
I tend to believe that if you really have a dream of being an architect, if you have the skills, I mean, it will pay back.
Mm.
It will. It's karma. It
Yeah.
will something good happen. But we also know that it's not always like this.
Mm.
So a strategy that I had when I started, for instance, is that for me to be able to have my own practice, to have my own projects back in Portugal, was to have side jobs that allowed me to have the earning that
Okay.
I needed to invest in my practice.
Mm.
So I mean, I would start with that. Is it really being hard to get into the practice? Uh, have a plan B. A plan
Mm.
B might be that, hey, not great, but to work in a bar to earn some money,
Yeah.
that will buy you some time.
True.
I remember one specific architect that I hired, that I told him in the interview, listen, you are perfect. I don't understand how come you haven't been hired in the last year. What did it happen? I was not believing. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a Swedish architect works with us, Jonathan Svensson,
Yeah.
and it was really a fine moment. I was also provoking him slightly to see how he would react, and he was quite honest. He said, "Okay, it was tough when we were going out from the university.
Yeah.
All my friends probably worked harder to find a job.
Mm.
I found a side job. I
Yeah.
was comfortable. I was happy with. I worked there for 1 year, but okay, now it's time for me to move on."
Yeah.
So yeah, in his case, it worked. I'm sure it could work in other
Yeah.
cases.
Yeah. I think there is no a specific recipe, but there are so many different ways. And I think the most important is that being creative is the answer to everything. Especially, I think, especially us trained to be creative. This is what we sell. So if you're not creative, finding a job, then it's gonna be super hard. I think you have to put time on this, like to think really creatively. How can I make this happen? And I think you should never give up on dream. Like if not Sweden, maybe Norway, then Sweden. I know so many people like they want to be in Stockholm and they couldn't, but they went to other small city and by time and after years. So it depends also how much you
Good.
believe in this.
It's good that you mentioned that, because that's also a tip that I give to many applicants. Okay, don't focus in the big cities, because in the big cities there's a lot of applicants.
Yeah.
Try the smaller cities or
Mm.
even the north of Sweden. There's a big demand for resources
In the
in
north,
those places.
yes, yes.
I mean, I work a lot in cities outside Gothenburg,
Mm.
Stockholm, Malmo, and it's very hard to recruit.
Yeah.
So the chances are higher in those places.
Yeah. Interesting. And I heard that you're starting also the co-organizing of the summer school,
Porto Academy in Sweden.
Porto Academy, but now it's in Sweden.
Yes. So Porto Academy is a architecture summer school that has been going on for the last 10 years.
Wow.
It started in Porto every summer with this unbelievable group of guests coming to do the workshops with the international group of students or architects. Um, some years ago, we started to discuss, okay, what about the idea of doing this outside Porto? And we started to discuss to do it in Sweden.
Yeah.
I mean, we had everything set to start, but it was exactly when COVID started.
No.
So this was 2020.
20, yeah.
I mean, we had to delay. At the same time, fortunately, Porto Academy started to internationalize their project for real in other locations.
Okay.
So after that, they did a Porto Academy in Mexico. The core was the houses of Luis Barragan, Mexican architects, absolutely incredible. So the students were working in the Luis Barragan houses, and together with the workshop leaders, coming up
Yeah.
with ideas.
So what's the aim of the workshop, or in the end
It's
of the summer
basically
school?
it's basically for you to develop your creativity,
Uh-huh.
to be directly involved in small teams with prestigious architects
Mhm.
that could share their work on. I mean, they would help you on. You would be in
Yeah.
a workshop with them directly. Every day you have lectures with these workshop leaders. There's always special guests that come from outside that are not involved in the
Yeah.
workshops, but they're usually famous architects that come in to present their work. So it's a mix of workshops and lectures.
Yeah.
And we are planning to do it in Sweden this year.
Tell me more.
We the main core of or the ambition of the Porto Academy in Sweden is not only to develop these projects in the summer, but also that after some part of the projects are executed.
Okay.
So we intend to work with the prefabrication, and there's a huge know-how around prefabrication in Sweden, especially wooden modular prefabrication.
Yeah.
So the students or architects, it's not only for students, but
It's open.
yeah, it's open for everyone.
Okay.
Of course, let's say 70% is usually students.
Mm.
They will work with some companies based in mostly Småland
Yeah.
that are specialized in prefabrication modular wooden units, together with the workshop leaders, and develop, and then hopefully some of the projects will be executed.
Cool. And they stay in the same area, and
Yes.
for how many days?
It's roughly 8 to 10 days. We are now
Okay.
finalizing the program.
Yeah.
It starts in Stockholm, 2 days in Stockholm first, and then the rest of the days in Växjö,
Nice.
in the south of Sweden, because it's closer to the prefabrication factories.
Yeah.
Also because one of the supporters and co-organizers of the event is Smart Housing Småland.
Okay,
A
cool.
really interesting organization that promotes innovation, creativity, together with architecture.
That's nice. So you send me the link as well.
Yes.
So
yes.
when is it in dates?
It's before. Again, we are closing down the dates.
Program,
It's before the midsummer, so I think around the 10th of June. It is starting 10th to the 20th, something like that.
Okay, and how many places?
Or
sorry, like people can attend.
So you have an idea, in Porto, there's usually 140 students.
What?
From 80 different nationalities. It's
What?
unbelievable. It's like the UN of architecture.
That's huge.
Yes. The last international event, it was last year in Versailles, in the palace.
Yeah.
And it was smaller groups, of course,
Yes.
even though the palace is quite big. And there, I think it was around 60, a group of 60 persons.
Still many.
So I mean, there's, of course, there's a limit, but I mean, one applying the group can grow and grow, because as soon as classes are filled, a new workshop leader comes to create a new class. So it's quite flexible. I mean, as I'm sure when this pod comes out, there's already information on their website where people can see who are the architects leading the workshops.
Nice.
And some of the names are really interesting.
But do you need like kind of like, what do you require? Like also portfolio? And
No, there's no requirement. I mean, there's a fee to start in.
How much?
The fee, we still, if it's in Porto, it's roughly 300 euros.
Okay, for the 10 days.
Yeah. In Porto, it includes lunch.
Okay.
So I would say the fee for the course is very low. It's very cheap. What might be more expensive is, of course, if you are traveling and the
For
travel
sure.
costs and
For
to
sure.
stay in Växjö.
Yeah.
That I would say it's the bigger
Yeah.
cost.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, send me the link, and I think this is super interesting. But
Mhm.
how are you doing this? Is this like a side hustle or business for you, or is this part of your Tengbom job?
No, I mean it's not even a business.
It's not.
No, 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 not from my side. Of course,
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Porto Academy is a company,
Mm.
and it's these architects from Porto, Rodrigo and Amelia, and we are friends. And
Yeah.
I'm as I said in the beginning, I'm quite passionate about
Yes.
my
Yeah.
profession. I teach as well, so it comes naturally to allow these things to happen.
Yeah.
So even them asked me, I mean, what do you want to do in the summer school? And I said, don't worry, we will figure it out in the end. So I mean, I'm glad just to
Yeah.
help to make this happen.
Yeah. No, it's going to be super cool. And like, how did you develop this passion to the profession?
It's hard to say because it really comes not from birth, but almost. If one goes to my fourth grade book,
Yeah.
and we had one from the full class, and I had like a small text from my teacher, and the teacher saying the thing that he likes more is to draw. So it really comes from the beginning that I liked to draw a lot. Of course, back then I didn't know exactly what was the architect
Yes.
role,
Mm.
but then when I went to university, I found myself. I mean,
In the right place.
this is what I want to do.
But still, like you are okay, you're part of university, start to take courses and so on, but still, like, you need to do something in order to maintain and develop this passion,
Yeah,
if you understand what
yeah,
I
yeah,
mean.
yeah, and that was my path before going to Sweden mainly.
Mm.
I really wanted to to develop architecture,
Mm.
to do my own projects. It was tough to find the economy.
Yeah.
So how could I put that in motion? Was basically working 3-4 times more than I
Mm.
used to. So teaching at the same time, investing in other things that allowed me to keep my work
Yeah.
as an architect. It was tough times. I mean, I was working a lot, but the payback came later when I started to see some of my first projects being done, and feeling happy and
Yeah.
I mean, stolz.
Like,
How is that in
proud.
proud of
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, I think it's because you believe in your passion and mission. Like, sometimes people maybe give up. It takes hard work maybe for some in order to get to a level that they are happy about it.
Yeah.
Like you say, you had 3 jobs, right? And it's not easy.
Yeah, especially when you are let's say in the lowest moments when where things are not happening, and the downside of our profession is that it requires a lot of time.
Yeah.
I mean, you as a urban planner, even most,
Yeah, like
you start today, okay, come back 10 years later.
maybe.
So architecture has that problem.
Mm.
The average from where you start to the final
Yeah.
uh, can go from 4 years to
Mm.
5 years, 7. That's more or less the average.
But what made you mm, be more passionate? Like, is it by reading? Is it by practicing? Like, I'm trying to figure out what made you become so much passionate about the profession.
Um, Probably one of the milestones in that journey was in the end of the first year of university. That together with two of my best friends, we did a tour around Europe by car. We started in Portland and we went by car to Czech Republic, going to
Yeah.
the north, coming a bit to the south, and in all places we were looking, we were seeing architecture. So
Mm.
everything that I was studying the year before, a lot of those things I could see it for the first time live.
Wow.
So, for instance, this experience, and this really happened that year, of listening to Frank Gehry in my school
Mm.
presenting Guggenheim of Bilbao before the Guggenheim was finished.
Mm.
So the lecture was amazing, and then the summer after, I could go for the first time to Bilbao to see the Guggenheim, and this was before the Guggenheim effect.
Yeah.
So this feeling, this thing of seeing live architecture and understanding how it can really create emotions on you,
Yeah.
it really was the foundation for me to continue. I mean, I want to do stuff like this. I still want. I still
Yeah.
need that
Energy or
that
inspiration.
need to do something that I can be proud of, that the people that will use
Yeah.
feel comfortable.
I believe also that doing side activities, not only reading the university books and listening to the lectures, helps a lot to show you like the importance of the profession, like site visit, summer schools, reading newspaper, engaging in like different association. This tells you a lot about how much important is what you are doing now and going to do, and it helps like to say to be more passionate about what you do and believe in it.
From my side, lectures and site visits were an
Yeah.
important role.
Mm.
What I take from the lectures, and for instance, here in Stockholm, you have a lot of fantastic lectures. Even if you are not in big cities, I mean, you have everything online.
Yeah.
So you see the other side of the architects, which is the way they think.
Mm.
And sometimes it's not that easy to see that in a project. You see images online, or
Yeah.
but the thoughts behind it, why they landed on that idea, that is really astonishing. And I've discovered many architects that I really admire, that only by understanding them I could start understanding and liking the
Yeah,
architecture.
that's true. I mean, also that's why I'm having this podcast is also to explore what you think about and why you're doing like this and because of what. Like, what is the story behind of all of these visualizations and nominations and
Yeah, the
so on?
visualizations, I would say it's usually the poorest part.
Ex-
It's of course what people
Yeah,
want,
what do you say?
and
Like the ice. Have you seen this image of like
no,
the mountain of ice, and then below the water, there's like a very big part of the rest of the mountain that we don't see.
of course one has to transform their ideas into visuals,
Yeah.
but the thoughts behind it are often more interesting.
Yeah. Joao, what do you want people to say about you or to read about you? Let's say 100 years from now.
Yeah, that's probably the toughest question you made today. I mean, I I hope some of the projects that I've accomplished are perceived as good examples
Mm,
that people feel comfortable with, and that they are still there in 100 years.
mm.
So that I would aim for.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have in mind to write a book or do a movie or something? You're not teaching anymore,
No,
right?
no, I'm not teaching. I gave up that when I moved to
Sweden.
Sweden.
Yeah.
I I'm not super good in writing.
Okay.
So I mean, you have to know when you sell the paint or when you are a painter. So I would exclude that. I would focus in finding the right clients,
Mhm.
finding the right team,
Yeah.
creating the best possible
Mm.
projects with conditions that I have.
Yeah.
That's my focus today.
Mm. What makes you stay in Sweden? We talked a lot now, challenges and so on. I love to explore with you the good side of being here and working as an architect. So what makes you stay here?
It's the sustainability of the profession. I mean, the work life balance.
Mm,
It was something new. I was not used to that.
mm,
Um, I was not envisioning a future to my profession, to my practice in Portugal. It would require that I would continue working, and working. Uh, the payback, I mean, was good to some extent, but hard. So turning upside down the table, what do you have in Sweden? You have a profession that is still quite valued. okay, maybe the role of the architect is different as we've discussed, but in the longer run, I think the payback is better. At the same time, I can, of course, have better conditions for my family. I have two young kids. They are quite enthusiastic. They visit architecture with us. So I mean, when I
Nice.
say us, I say the four of us. My sambo, which is my favorite Swedish word, sambo, for the international listeners, is my partner.
Yeah.
We visit architecture a lot all together. She's an artist, I'm an architect. We both visit a lot of
Yeah.
museums with the kids. The kids love it, and they are always asking for it. So they have been everywhere in all museums, architecture,
Nice.
buildings, houses,
Yeah.
strange buildings, everything. So it's easier to accomplish these things being here. I
Yeah.
would hate to be one of those traditional architects that's focused only in work and kind of that private side
Or
is a
social.
mess
Yeah.
or is not existent. So this relation work life,
Yeah.
I mean, Scandinavian countries is the place to make it happen.
Yeah. So the Swedish system offers you not only as an architect to develop and like work in a sustainable way, but also like for a private life, like kids, transportation, and on all of the other part that we don't maybe see when we talk.
Yeah, and it's not us saying, but I guess the UN saying that the best place on earth to have kids is Sweden, and one really feels that when one is here.
Yeah. And tell me more about like the working conditions, like as an architect.
The starting from the very beginning, it starts from the fact that all architects have a pay, they have a salary,
Yeah.
which unfortunately is not the case in some countries.
Yeah.
That is, of course, a game changer. The level of payment is also quite comfortable for you to start a living. Then you have, of course, a bigger margin of progression because as I was giving the example of the Berry locks. I mean, someone older or someone starting, they still have room
Yeah.
to combine. And I still remember today the first time that I came to Tengbom in our Kalmar office, and I was really scanning the group, and I was seeing, okay, guys with 20 something and guys with 60 something,
Yeah.
guys, and also the gender equality
Yeah.
is something very strong in Sweden. It is a leading example regarding gender equality in our profession, and we have to agree that's not the norm, unfortunately.
Yeah. So with all the challenges, it's still an attractive workplace to be an architect in Sweden.
Yes, both the practice and society.
Yeah.
Without doubts, I would say.
Of
Of course, it might depend on your personal goals.
For sure.
There's places where you can have better pays. There's places where you can have more exciting architecture. But again, balancing private life and work life, there's not many other options out there. If you exclude Scandinavian countries, even less.
Yeah. So what do you love most by being an architect here in Sweden?
I currently love the position that I'm at. So leading a team, trying to promote the skills they have, trying to give them the opportunities that were given to me. That is really what drives me today. Not only make good projects, deliver excellence in terms of architecture, but also provide opportunities to the ones around me.
Yeah. Interesting. So how many years now? 7 years?
7 years.
Yeah.
January 26 was the when we moved.
Oh, wow. How many years will you stay more?
I don't know. I have that question a lot.
Okay.
All our community of friends back home, there are many architects.
They still there?
The first moved, and many came back, and they all say, I mean, there's a moment
of course,
that you don't expect, that you think, time to go
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
Usually it's kids, so
I think it hits a lot to do with
in
this.
my case it was the opposite. I went out later. I had kids, so I'm not seeing coming back in the next
Yeah.
7-8 years, honestly.
Interesting. And now I have two questions. The first one is like you name one thing you did that you're super proud of, and then name something you did that you regret doing that. So we start with the good and the proud.
I have to say it's the project I dedicated more time of my life was by far my proudest moment in my career. And it was a hotel that I designed in the north of Portugal that was nominated for the National Wood Award in Portugal. It was also nominated to some international awards.
Wow.
It was published on Arc Daily, Design Boom, in books from 12 different countries.
Wow.
And I got invited to present the project in different countries as well. So by far, that was the highest
Highlight,
point
yeah.
that I thought. I mean, being there, I thought, okay, there's only going up, but things are not exactly like that.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why you need to be flexible in life.
Yeah.
And something you did and you regret.
I look a lot to the future, so
You don't look back.
I mean, it's hard to say what I. Sometimes, if I'm honest, if I only think on my profession, do I regret coming to Sweden? Even though I say it's the best place to have this balance between work and life. Now, if I only look on work, I knew that I could deliver higher results in Portugal.
Yes.
Because again, this role of the architect, the capacity, the fact that you are taking the shots, that makes a huge impact in the project. It's much more tougher here in Sweden.
Yeah.
So I still hope I can be on that level that I was used to.
Yeah.
In a way, this Berry locks is that level that we are talking about. So the next step is to be on that level in a more consistent form. That is not an isolated case.
Exactly, like more in the other projects as well.
Yeah, that we can deliver that level of excellence in more and more projects.
Then it's a great challenge for you leading this.
Yeah. It's not only dependent on me. It's dependent
like with the team, of course,
on everyone that works, and again, clients.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, maybe this pod is a lot for urban planners, architects, students, and not so much for clients.
No, but clients listening to this to understand us as well.
Let's hope one of them calls me.
Let's see. The good client, So we talked about showing the other side of an architect, that if you're doing something, a side hustle or a hobby or so. What do you do? What are your hobbies? What do you do? Like you told me about the summer school. That's amazing. What else Joao does?
Yeah, a lot of traveling, trying to mix always this traveling with some architecture, a lot of family time, activities with kids. I mean, more, let's say, mundane hobbies. Gym. I like to go to the gym.
Cool,
It helps me a lot to relax.
Yeah.
That's it.
How do you find the work-life balance? You're so much passionate about architecture.
Yeah. I mean, I'm talking about really painting the picture as being perfect, and of course, it's still
the image I get is not like you're perfect or God or something. It's just that you're a person with love to architecture, that you want to make it good.
Yeah, and part of the challenge is how to combine this with the time that you have, and again to balance with your family. And I work in an office in a city that is called Linköping, which is 300 kilometers away from the city that I live. We also travel a lot to another city that we like a lot, which is Malmo. So I mean, I'm in this kind of triangle, not the Bermuda Triangle, but almost between Kalmar, Linköping, and Malmo. And this sometimes it's difficult to find time for everything, and we are kind of people and family that is always wanting to do stuff.
Yeah.
But it's good. I mean,
Mm.
we are out there having experiences.
Yeah. How old are your kids? Are they small?
Sophia, she's 12, and Rita, she's 10.
Okay, cool. Shout out to Sofia and Rita. They will listen to this, right?
Yes, I hope they do.
Yeah. So now we are in the end of this episode, and I have 3 questions for you, and it's more about like takeaway messages. So the first one is about you give a message to yourself. So you have a mirror now in the front of you.
No, keep on going. I guess I have been doing something right. Sometimes I'm very intuitive, making decisions without thinking much, but that has been proved right.
Yeah.
So keep on doing what you have been doing.
Yes. And 3 takeaway messages to our listeners.
I really believe if one invests in architecture, it pays back. So I'm thinking more on organizations and people and clients that if they really pick the good ones they believe, if they give the conditions, it will pay back. It can be a small house, it can be a school of a municipality, it doesn't matter. But yeah, that personal touch in every project and finding the good ones is fundamental.
Yeah.
Another point that I was coming here, I was thinking what might be relevant for urban planners, and something that I find interesting, and maybe you could help me a bit. It's every time that, or it happens a lot in Sweden when one works with a urban plan, that the plan is really specified to an extent where architects don't have much margin. And I understand the reasons behind that, but urban planners and architects have to find smarter ways to raise the quality.
Yeah,
it's not by regulation that we will be able to raise the quality, because the ones that want to lower the quality, they will always find excuses.
Exactly. And being a bit more flexible.
Yeah. The most particular aspect that one sees that is very odd in the recent urban planning in Sweden is what I call the Vallastaden effect. So the necessity for variation.
Yeah.
That's you should change the facade every 20 meters. Things like that. So there's some kind of stigma against simplicity, monotony. So that's I would like some of the listeners that work with that to take with them.
Yeah.
Then throughout the episode we talked about the sustainability of the profession. So I would like everyone that is in that position to think what they can do to enhance the sustainability of the profession. And it comes together on creating a more multi-diverse environment, to hire more people from other backgrounds to give a chance. Again, Sweden is in the forefront of gender equality in the profession, but we still are today quite white, male-oriented branch.
Yeah.
So there's a huge spectrum of our society that has been having difficulties to get into the profession, and they could have a positive impact as well.
Yeah. Very interesting and important, especially the one, or all 3 of them, but the one for me is going to be about the planning. That's then a bit more flexible and don't lock down everything and kill the area or the building. So the last question here is going to be you asking it to me and to our listeners. So what is your question to us?
I already had a question before we started. So I would love to have an episode with you, not with the interviewer, but the one to be interviewed.
Okay.
I'm sure there's many people out there curious to know more about you. And I mean, you are a role model in many ways. It's impressive to see a young guy like you coming out from the university 5 years ago, doing this that you are doing, one of the biggest podcasts of Scandinavia. So you should be proud of that.
Thank you.
So think of you also as someone that I'm sure the public, the audience, is interested in knowing more. So that's challenge to you for this new year.
I accept the challenge, of course. But thank you so much also for believing in me and believing in the profession. I really enjoyed. We talked almost 2 hours, and I love to say keep up the good work. And hopefully we talk more and explore more interesting topics. So thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.